Hey, I'm your host, TheDoctorDanko, come on in. You've been missing out, so let's begin. Pumpkin_crumb is your host here too. When you hear the beats, you know what to do. Why didn't you want me? Why didn't you want me now? Why didn't you want me? Why didn't you want me? Hey. How you doing?
Hi. Fine.
Yeah.
Started talking, and I asked if you were recording, because I didn't think you were, and then you said yes, and apparently we're just not acknowledging that, so I fucked up.
It's okay. It's been a long time since we've done this.
It has, and even longer time since you uploaded.
Yes.
We have like two in the vault.
I've been busy. 2 or 3.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So we'll do this, and it'll sit on your laptop for another year.
Or another week, since
who knows?
I'll be done with my job then. You know, it's fine.
There's a truck on our street.
So, how are you?
I'm alright.
Yeah.
Alright. How are you?
I'm good. Do we want to list off the things we're going to talk about, or do you just want to jump into it?
Just jump into it. What have you been watching, playing, reading lately?
I mean, not a whole lot.
Super. Glad we're doing this.
Yeah, I know. I have watched a few movies in theaters. Zombieland 2, which was alright, you know. It's a very cool concept, and the actors are all wonderful, but it kind of, like, the first one was really good because it was unique and, like, fresh. The second one is just more of the same, which is a little lame.
Yeah.
Like, there are cool moments in it, and I don't know if you're familiar with the franchise at all, the Zombieland Extended Universe. Just kidding.
You made that up.
I did.
Okay.
But in the first movie, you know, basic premise, it's the apocalypse. Sure. Zombies are running amok. And you have Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, and Abigail Breslin, I think is her name. How do you pronounce it? And, like, Jesse Eisenberg has a bunch of rules for, like, following in order to stay alive in Zombieland. Woody Harrelson is just, like, a gun nut and wants to have, like, the zombie kill of the week is what it is in the first movie.
Okay.
Emma Stone and Abigail Breslin are, like, con artists, kind of, and, like, do the whole damsel in distress thing in order to get their vehicle and their guns and everything, and fuck them over. Exactly.
Okay. All right, I can deal with that.
And in one point in the first movie, they make it to Beverly Hills, and they see this mansion that Woody Harrelson's character is like, I know exactly where we're going. We're going to stay out at this house, like, to set up camp. And it's Bill Murray's house. So there are a bunch of Bill Murray photos on the walls and, like, paintings, and they're, like, acting out Ghostbusters scenes because they have, like, the jumpsuits and all the props and whatnot. And they're watching Ghostbusters in, like, his movie theater, and Jesse Eisenberg hears something behind him. It's a zombie. He freaks out and shoots him, but it's Bill Murray, and he was pretending to be a zombie just to play a joke on him. Like, he met up with the other characters and was like, this will be really funny. Because Bill Murray likes to go out, and the only way to do that in Zombieland is to, like, pretend to be one of them. So, like,
sure.
It's a whole bit, and Jesse Eisenberg accidentally kills Bill Murray in the movie, and it's really funny, and it's, like, just this
that sounds
cool...
hilarious.
The way he does it, it's just really, really funny. And then in the second one, we see, like, a little post-credit scene of, like, day one of the outbreak. And Bill Murray is at this press junket for, like, Garfield 3. He's being asked a bunch of questions, and he's just, like, bored out of his mind. And then the zombie outbreak happens, and Bill Murray just fucks up zombies for, like, 30 seconds. And it's, like, the best part of the movie, which is a shame, because it happens in the credits, and it's, like, I don't know, it's something you didn't even expect to get out of that movie. I don't know. It's not really... Like, there are funny bits and some cool moments, but overall it's kind of just worn off from the first one.
Okay.
And then the bigger news is the Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie, which I won't get into in this podcast because we have a lot of other stuff to go over. But it was really excellent, and I loved it, and I can't wait to see it again November 6th with Kevin Smith doing the Q&A and Jason Mewes as well.
You'll just die happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good movie. But like I said, I'll probably do it again November 6th when it's fresher in my mind.
Something just to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it'll be a solo show. I don't know.
Because I have nothing to contribute.
And generally no interest.
Fair enough.
And that's okay.
There is that.
But what have you been reading?
So I've actually been reading a lot because I'm nannying an infant now, and I'm there for 8 to 9 hours, and she sleeps 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
So I am reading 3 books a week, roughly. And I've read a lot of really good ones, a lot of dumb ones. So I'm going to do like a quick overview of a couple. So there are 2 that are sort of in the same category. Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Riska Brunt, I want to say is her name.
Okay.
And then The Great Believers, and I don't remember who wrote that. But those are both about the AIDS epidemic, and specifically about young gay men in the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
And, like, I am a person who thought I was fairly well informed about that, because I'm obsessed with Rent, and I've done a fair amount of research into social justice movements and, past and present. But The Great Believers specifically was the first, like, really in-depth, calling it a character study makes it sound boring, but, like, it was the first story that really humanized the AIDS crisis for me.
Okay.
Tell the Wolves I'm Home is related to it. It was a really good book, but I'm not going to talk about it that much beyond that. It was a really good book. You should read it. It was sad, though. I cried and held you and didn't tell you what was happening. I just cried. The Great Believers, the center character is this kid named Yale, and he's in his early 20s. He's gay. His parents have kicked him out of his home. Mm-hmm. All of his friend group, like his found family, have similar stories. And the book spans, like, from before they knew what AIDS was up to the creation of the test and the drugs that finally started working. And, like, so at the beginning of the story, we're at a funeral for one of Yale's friends, and they're, the house is packed with all of these people who couldn't go to the actual funeral because the guy's family wouldn't allow any of his gay friends to be there.
Wow.
And by the end of the book, spoilers, Yale is dying and he's alone because all of his friends have died.
Oh.
I haven't really experienced anything that viscerally, intensely sad in a really long time. And it's sort of one of the only books, I read a lot of sad books, but it's one of the only ones that's, like, prohibitively sad that I wouldn't, like, I can't even recommend people read it because it was so heavy.
Wow.
And I'm sort of still processing that, and I read it a couple of weeks ago, and it's just really, really, really intense. So if you feel like you need to understand the AIDS epidemic a little more, The Great Believers is a really good one for that. But if you're depressed, maybe give it a miss. And then the other one, completely different topic, is Becoming by Michelle Obama, which was just delightful. It was so good. I love her so much. She's so classy and elegant. But she doesn't pull punches. Like, she's very, very smart. She has degrees from Harvard and Yale, maybe Harvard and Princeton. I don't know. Very smart, 2 Ivies. Law degree. She was Barack Obama's supervisor for, like, his summer internship, and that's how they met. He was late to everything. Like, she was really annoyed by him, and it reminded me so much of when there used to be hope in politics, and sort of how there still can be again, because there are, the America that elected Barack Obama still exists.
Yeah.
And Michelle believes so fiercely in her husband, and she didn't want him to run because at that point they had 2 small children, and like him being a state senator, it already felt like she never saw him.
Yeah.
But the only reason she gave it her okay was because she thought that America really needed her husband. And we did.
And we do.
Yeah, and we will. So I'm like borderline evangelical about that book.
Yeah.
It was so good. It's just so delightful, and she's just such an incredible woman. Okay, so that and like a million other things is what I've been reading. If anybody needs a book recommendation, give me a genre. I can throw something your way.
Yeah.
Because I read a lot.
Yeah, and particularly now, like you said, because you're nannying and the baby just sleeps all the time.
Yeah, like I put her to sleep and I just sit there. And, like I'm responsible for her laundry and her dishes, but it takes like 20 minutes. I just read.
Yeah.
Which like it's great, but it's kind of boring. Especially when I'm not particularly enjoying the book that I'm reading. So anyway, what's the big thing that we have to discuss on this podcast?
Well, we were going to dedicate this episode to the Berlantiverse.
Yeah. I don't know if that's like what people are calling it, or if that's...
Yeah, they call it the Berlantiverse or the Arrowverse.
Arrowverse just makes it sound narrow.
I mean, yeah, but the Arrowverse
is the springboard.
Starting it all.
I mean, I guess I never really thought of it as the Arrowverse because I wasn't particularly interested in the Arrow until recently.
Right. But,
yeah.
I mean, it did start everything. And
yeah, definitely.
Gave this surge to come up with TV shows.
Yeah, so the CW DC shows.
Yeah.
Do we want to do this like in parts or... Just...
We can do it in parts.
Okay, and then talk about
the overall thing. Yeah.
Should we start with Arrow or should we start with Flash because that's where we started?
We could start with Flash.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we've talked about the Flash before.
Yeah.
On this show.
A lot of the early episodes are Flash-centric.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, because we were watching it live? No, we were just watching it.
We were just watching it, but I remember when we moved into our old apartment in Pittsburgh, the first few episodes we did there were Flash because we were watching it live.
Okay. Checks out.
Yeah.
So the Flash.
I mean, when we met, we started watching it briefly.
We did. We were too busy making out to really pay attention.
Kind of, yeah.
We kind of had to rewatch that season.
And I think I watched a few episodes when it had first started airing, like I did with Arrow, but I didn't really dedicate a lot of time to it, mainly because that was the thing with live television. Like, all of these shows came out after people started getting Netflix and dropping cable and all that stuff. So keeping up with the show regularly, once a week, was difficult.
Yeah, especially with the way our lives were back then.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't feasible.
But then they started going to Netflix, and then that's how we were able to binge watch and catch up.
Yeah, like I was committed to The Flash enough to watch the seasons when they dropped online.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is sort of the first time we've been committed enough to watch them live, and that honestly doesn't have a whole lot to do with the plot. It has to do with the fact that Crisis on Infinite Earths is coming up.
Right. But the Flash, Barry Allen is he is. But Grant Gustin's portrayal of him is just so lighthearted and so wonderful and genuine. But
not like too lighthearted, like lighthearted, but he can play like the sincerity and the gravity of the situation that they feel like they're in, but it like they keep leaning harder and harder into the comic bookness of it, as is sort of displayed by the fact that his suit keeps getting brighter and brighter red.
Well, I mean, yeah, because in the beginning, I think part of it, since Arrow started the Berlantiverse, and that was very dark and gritty and everything, and then they bring Barry Allen, who brings the light to everything.
Yeah.
They wanted to like keep them feeling somewhat visually the same, I think.
Right.
Which is why the suit is like burgundy and not bright red. But then, once they figure out what the Flash is and everything, with its delightful cheesiness.
Yeah.
They
very sincerely done.
They start like brightening up that universe.
Yeah.
Which is displayed by his suit.
Yeah, like very bluntly.
Yeah. Because in the comic books, his suit is like a bright red. He stands out among all of the Justice League members. And it's like the skin-tight spandex instead of like the body armor type look.
Yeah.
Which is vastly different than what they went for with the movies, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, the movies are garbage. CW, who knew, is doing like the only watchable DC content.
Not only the only watchable DC content, but the only watchable like superhero TV shows.
Yeah.
Because I would say they, like, as much as I love season 1 of Daredevil,
yeah, it doesn't follow
all of the other Marvel shows haven't really done it for me.
Yeah, like even Jessica Jones, I really wanted to like her. But...
Yeah. But these shows not only are their own original thing, but they stay true to the comic books and like reference them a lot of the time, and like, I don't know, there's just something super sincere about the show, not just Barry Allen, but like,
yeah, the whole
feels like it's made by people who give a shit about comic books.
Yeah, and you can really tell because I mean, so 2 prongs, like it's watchable, and not just watchable but enjoyable for people that don't have the comic background.
Yeah.
But the other prong is that like watching it with you, there are lots of little details that like stand out to you that don't mean anything to me, but it doesn't detract from the story. But because you know what you're looking at, it's just that much more vibrant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. So yeah, we were able to watch all the way through Flash to get up to the season that's airing.
Which is 7?
7 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are caught up on The Flash. We have to watch it tonight. We have to remember we forgot last week.
Now I think it's like in the very first episode of The Flash, spoilers if you haven't seen the first episode of The Flash, but it's been a minute, so that's on you.
Right. Keep up.
Harrison Wells, who... Yeah. He is like in his, what they call the time vault, and is pulling up a newspaper image from the future, because he has that technology. And it says, Flash vanishes in crisis, in like episode 1.
And it has the date, and like a lot of details of that front page become important at like different parts of the series. Yeah, but so what we weren't really thinking about or paying attention to was the date that this crisis was supposed to occur.
Right, because as it's displayed in that episode, it's like, all right, Harrison Wells is doing everything he can in order to make sure that happens and it remains unchanged.
Right.
So we get this sense that that's his goal for his plot.
Yeah, so we think that's like a season 1 thing.
Yeah, but it becomes much bigger than that and everything. But that's like what we're focusing on in the background, and then as details get revealed, we start learning more and more. But like you said, the details of that newspaper article become important throughout the show.
Yeah, I mean, like everything from like the actual details to the byline to the image to, Yeah,
and Flash, Barry Allen's whole thing is he's going to try to prevent this from happening.
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't,
because there's so much other shit going on.
Right, he has to put out the individual fires
and
hope that he's knocked things enough out of balance that this crisis eventually changes.
Right, and so as a fan of the comic books, like, I know the crisis event that they're talking about. However, what we come to in the newest season of The Flash, or it was the newest season of The Flash, because it happened at the end of last season.
Yeah, I think it was the finale.
Where, Barry Allen has traveled through time and has changed shit so often that, like, he kind of knows the rules of time travel and fucking up events. But they have all kind of done so much that he gets this warning message from who they call the Monitor that the crisis is coming. And they, like, I can't remember how the events unfold, but they go back to the newspaper article, and the date spins back to December I think it's December 19th, 2019.
And
which,
we're like, that's a real date!
Right, it's supposed to be like 2420 or maybe like 2045
or something.
Something crazy
something
in the future.
Like far enough off in the future that we didn't feel we had to worry about it.
Right.
Because Flash will be over before then.
Exactly. And
although, who knows?
Now it's happening this year. This December.
Which is so cool. I have so many thoughts about that. Like, we have to talk about, like, all the different shows and
right.
It all comes together. But, like, it was so brilliant how they did that. How they left the headline with the date that, like, you know, so Crisis was sort of in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Your mind, not mine. And it was like, you know, did they always think they were going to be able to do it? Or were they just like, wouldn't that be fucking cool? And they did it so subtly that, like, they could change the date when they had all their ducks in a row and were ready to make it happen and do it in real time like that. It's so cool. It's
very cool.
Yeah.
So let's go back now. So knowing that Crisis was coming, I mean, as much as I would have loved to have just found out in the episode that it's revealed,
right?
The way social media and just like news travels in the day of the internet, like we knew the Crisis on Infinite Earths was something that was coming.
Right.
Now to get to this fall event, which is a massive feat, it's essentially the DC's Endgame.
Yeah.
Like that's the magnitude of it.
But instead of like, you know, tying off, like ending an era, it could like springboard us into. It could be a beginning rather than an ending.
Yeah. And in order to get there, it doesn't happen without starting with Arrow.
Yeah. So knowing that Crisis was coming, we went back to the beginning.
Right. And as we've seen on The Flash and as we were watching all of the seasons of The Flash leading up to the time it was airing, every now and again, they would do crossover episodes.
Really brilliantly done crossover episodes.
With, like, maybe they introduce a character in a Flash episode, but then they finish it on an Arrow episode, or maybe they just, like, introduce somebody like Barry Allen didn't start out on The Flash.
Yeah,
they
he showed up in Arrow.
in Arrow. So, go ahead.
Okay, so I had watched, I think we figured out, 4 seasons of Arrow before I got thoroughly sick of Oliver Queen, which I think I honestly only happened because I wasn't appreciative of the whole universe, because now it's fascinating. I mean, the season that we're on isn't really holding me, but we'll see.
We're only in episode 4.
I know, and I wish there were less.
Wow.
So the other thing that we know is that Crisis will be the end of Arrow.
Arrow is in its final season, season 8. And the crossover event dubbed Crisis on Infinite Earth has the finale of Arrow in it. It's a shorter season this year. So
we figured that we should watch Arrow from the beginning because hopefully, you know, Oliver Queen plays a really huge part in this Crisis, and I have some thoughts and feelings, but we'll get to that. I don't know how to organize my thoughts. So
you would only watch 4 seasons of it.
Yeah, I watched 4 seasons. And
you got tired of it.
Yeah, I think I also, like, maybe I had gotten through what was readily available online, and it would have been a choice between, like, watching it live or just giving up on it. And I didn't care that much, so.
Okay.
Yeah. That being said, going back to the beginning, having met a bunch of these characters through The Flash and through the crossovers with the other shows, with Legends of Tomorrow and with Supergirl, and with, well, we'll get there. Yeah, so going back to the beginning feels much more momentous now than now that there's so much of a universe based on this.
Not only so much of a universe, but an end in sight.
Yeah, like, a very dramatic end.
I find that that's why people tune into shit a lot more often, is when, like, because we do binge watch content, that's what we do. That's Netflix's design, and all the other streaming services that exist. But once you know that it's ending, or that there was an end, like Breaking Bad ends, and you never watched an episode, now that it's on Netflix, it feels somewhat more obtainable and more doable because you can just watch maybe an episode a night, or like you don't have to wait at a week at a time and then wait for when it goes off the air for a while and then comes back in the fall and all that other stuff. You can just watch it all in one sitting, essentially.
Yeah, if you're committed.
If you're committed.
Which we are.
So to know that Netflix had all the Arrow episodes, we're like, all right, well, this crisis is coming. We need to catch up.
And we strategized. Because we were doing like a Flash rewatch.
We were, like, because the Flash is so enjoyable that, like, we like popping into that world.
Yeah.
So I had never really watched Arrow or given it a real chance for the same reasons that we talked about, just being that it was airing live and whatnot. So this is essentially my first experience going through the show. And for me personally, like, I kind of knew they were marketing it as like a darker version of the character, because when I think of Green Arrow, I think of the dude in the short sleeves with like the Robin Hood hat and like the goatee and everything, and it's very like niche, or not niche,
deep cut.
Yeah, like cheesy 90s comic book, like Super Friends type shit when I think of the character. However,
this is a little different tonally.
Being that like DC has always gone the darker route, whereas Marvel has gone the lighter, family-friendly version.
Which is so interesting because Marvel's TV shows are dark and gritty.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's not what fans want.
But with Arrow, like, the story that they set out intrigued me, and I don't really know a lot about the Green Arrow character.
Yeah.
But what they did when I was watching it, they would throw in details or characters or just subtle, like, kind of backstories and styles for each character that was very heavily present in Batman's universe. And being a huge Batman fan, as we have discussed, it kind of, like, unknowingly, it hooked me into the show because I was like, wait a minute, Stag, I know that name. I'm familiar with the Batman universe in such a deep way that like anytime something would happen, I'd be like, wait a minute, that happened in the Batman universe or whatever.
Which I think is what makes you possibly unique, but definitely special as a viewer, is other Batman fans would be like, oh my god, he's just trying to be Batman, and it would turn them off to this universe, but you're like, oh my god, that's all the Batman stuff!
And it's not like, obviously, since Green Arrow and Batman, they're in the same universe.
They're not
it's
shitting on
fine.
Batman.
No, they're not.
They're doing it in an enjoyable way.
Well, not just that, but the whole goal that I think Berlanti and the whole team, the creative team, because it's not just him, but he's behind
the force.
They were initially just trying to create a universe, or at least the Arrowverse, like with just Arrow before they got the Flash and everything, without relying on Superman or Batman or any of the stars of the Justice League. And like, fans were really shitty about that. Like, I have friends that are just like, they're trying to make it like that they don't exist in this universe. Well, I mean, alright. So, like, even if they do exist in the universe, like, they're trying to tell the story of the Green Arrow and Oliver Queen. Like, let them do that. And that had always been my biggest problem with the Warner Brothers movies, and they solely did that probably, you know, to keep the rights with Warner Brothers. That's why they'd pop out a Batman feature every now and then. Right. But also because of the name recognition. Like, people to watch. Kids especially know Batman, Superman, Santa Claus. They're like
Spider-Man.
Exactly. Well, yeah, but like those names are just so synonymous with superheroes and shit like that that's what they jump to. But they were trying something new. And the way they're telling Oliver Queen's story, like, first of all, Stephen Amell is just wonderful to watch.
Oh, good. Like,
not just physically, but
right. No, that's important, but it's not like that's not what I was exclaiming
no,
about.
I know.
His performance is incredible.
Yeah,
and like all of the people they have cast as these heroes are incredible. Grant Gustin is such a good Flash. Like, and all of most of the side characters are really good.
Right.
Go ahead.
So yeah, like having the universe start with somebody that's like not even like Green Arrow pops into the Justice League now and again and maybe has been an official member of the Justice League, but when people think of the Justice League, Green Arrow's not on the list. Green Lantern is.
We've talked about this before. Like, that's how they should have fucking done this.
Yes.
And they're following our playbook, which we'll get to in a second. But like, so honestly, when I started watching Arrow, I did not know that these were comic book characters. And the more we watch and the more I think about it, I might not have plugged that into the Google machine until Damien Dark.
Really?
Which is season 4, by the way.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right, and like the way they introduced Barry Allen, even if they had never planned to do the Flash show, they're just like, hey, we have this forensic scientist,
the CSI, crime scene investigator.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like
yeah. They introduce him as just like he's helping out with the case because something's super unusual, blah blah blah, and then he fucks off back to his
like
city.
Weird about him. He's like, all right, I'm not actually investigating for the police.
Right.
This is my parents.
Exactly.
Yeah, we get
the unexplainable shit. Because
with his sunny personality.
Yeah. And especially in season 1, like we're just introduced to Oliver Queen and everything, but he's super dark and like lived on an island for fucking years and had to like survive, and he's just like doesn't trust anyone. That's why his team is so small.
It's full of secrets.
But then Barry Allen kind of balances that out.
Which is so nice.
Even in just the episode that he's introduced. Like,
they play off each other really, really well.
And in that episode, Barry Allen doesn't have his powers.
Right, he's just Barry Allen.
Yeah, we just see him as the crime scene investigator that, you know, his mom and dad, his mom was killed due to unexplained circumstance. He saw a man in yellow and appeared out on the street, and they thought his dad did it, and he's just like, I need to investigate this. And I don't even know, I don't think it's at the end of that episode, because it shows up another one.
Yeah. Where, like, so the end of the episode, he's back in Central City at his lab, and
he missed the particle accelerator.
Yeah. And then, so me, not knowing what any of this means, the end of this episode, after, I think a couple of episodes of getting to know and like Barry Allen, he gets fucking struck by lightning, and we just don't address it again.
Right.
There's some, like, vague mention, Barry's in a coma. I'm like, so we just gonna leave that kid?
And that's the thing is, the show The Flash doesn't start up until, like, almost the end of that season.
Yeah.
If not the next season,
Yeah, they did it so well. And we were talking about this recently, like, whether or not they intended for the Flash to be the one that took off. Like, they planted a lot of seeds like that.
Yeah.
Like, things that could have taken off into their own spin-offs. Like, they could have done Suicide Squad. They could have done Vixen.
Yeah. And they did a lot of, like,
Birds of Prey.
referencing and sort of world building within the Arrow show.
Yeah.
I don't know what their plan was initially, but in the age where, like, all right, if you're referencing something, you should do something with it later on, like Marvel does.
Yeah.
With every, like, end credit scene being just, like, the starting point for something else. But, like, they could have just left it as the Arrow show being, like, the only one that exists.
It wouldn't have felt unfinished.
Yeah.
Because they did readdress the Barry Allen.
Right.
They did tie that shut.
But the fact that they introduced Barry and decided to give him his show, and then along the way, like, I don't think they set the seeds in any of the other
Legends.
Well, they do bring Legends into it, but, like, Supergirl.
Yeah,
I was trying to
Supergirl
think.
was on a different network.
A different network initially, and then they, I don't know if they retroactively make her part of the universe, or if the writers were all a part of that team.
It was the same writers. It was Phil Berlanti, and like, Blake Neely did the music.
Yeah.
I started watching Supergirl. Matt and I decided that, like, in this effort to catch up, we're both going to watch Arrow. My project was Supergirl. His project was Legends.
Yeah.
I'm not going to finish Supergirl. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
And we're watching The Flash live and Batwoman live, which we'll get to.
So, yeah, because The Flash kind of always felt like it belonged with Arrow.
Yeah.
That these other shows, good in their own right, like, I'm loving Legends of Tomorrow, For all of, like, they bring in a lot of the characters that have been introduced on other shows, kind of like your B team.
The angel of the Arrowverse.
Right. But Supergirl, you know, another big name character that in the Crisis on Infinite Earth has an important part. But I won't get into that.
No, don't tell me.
But then after, you know, they introduce Supergirl on another network, they eventually get her on the CW.
I think they bring her in with the Flash, though.
Like, yeah,
I think Barry shows up on Supergirl.
And the other thing with Supergirl, she's in a different Earth, right?
Yeah, so she's not, like, just up the road.
Yeah, which makes sense because if you had a person from Krypton flying around your sense like Star City,
you especially would not need Oliver Queen.
Right.
Like Barry Allen, you could make a case.
And that's the other thing is, like, in the movies or in just like the DC universe in the comic books, like, and we made this joke about Daredevil, who's micromanaging
the shit out of 10 blocks.
Yeah. Like, what's the point of those street-level heroes if you have somebody from the skies that can fucking...
So another smart move that, you know, whether or not that was intentional.
Right. You know, it makes sense, and then they can exist in their own universes and bring them in when they need to, and, like... Yeah. And
the cool thing about Arrow and the Flash and how they work together, and I have yet to... I don't know that they don't do it on the other shows, but they very casually reference the characters constantly.
Yeah,
like, the reason they all get new suits every season is because, Cisco whipped something up. So that's just that.
They do it.
Yeah, like, and all the metahumans in Central City. And,
yeah,
and it's so cool. Like, it's just really solid world building.
Yeah.
It's not, like, they don't ignore that the other exists until the crossover event.
Right.
So the crossovers feel much more organic and exciting rather than something like shoehorned in that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And I mean, they are shoehorned in because they pretty much like do the crossover thing and then go back to their normal plot, which, you know, what else would they going to do? But
I think each crossover has made sense.
Yeah, definitely. They haven't felt out of place.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because the characters from their individual shows, like, they stay in their headspaces, even if they have a separate threat from what's going on in their season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It really is, and I don't know why more people don't talk about it.
I've never liked anything that the DC Universe has ever done.
I mean, arguably, neither have I.
They've done, like, a bunch of shitty Batman movies, but, like, this is so solid.
Yeah. Which brings me to the next thing. So, building up to the Crisis, we had Arrow being the first show, then The Flash, then Supergirl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, chronologically, she was a little bit before.
Yeah. Legends of Tomorrow.
Right.
And within those 4 shows I mentioned, there was an animated show called Vixen, which a bunch of the characters from those universes like crossed over before they actually had a crossover.
Yeah.
Because Cisco shows up as Vibe, and they all do the voices in the animated show. And then there was also a show that didn't really belong, sort of like Supergirl. It started on another network, but nobody picked it up for a second season, Constantine.
Right.
Which, like, everyone who watched the show, their biggest thing was, like, John Constantine, like, his whole deal, like, his trademark thing is smoking, which you can't do on TV. But then eventually they got lenient with it or something.
People got out of their buttholes about it for just, like, a second.
But when that show was canceled, they brought him to reprise his role on Arrow for some mystical magic that was going on that he needed to do. And it, like, makes that show part of the universe, but he felt like he belonged there, too.
Yeah, it didn't feel shoehorned in.
No.
Like it was a reasonable time for Oliver to have called somebody with that character's expertise.
Yeah. And so, sort of the only thing that we could think of, you know, with Arrow being in its final season, you know, there's gonna need to be something to fill that void.
A void to be filled.
And as I found out while watching the first season, it felt very much like a Batman story in a Batman world that they're doing. So it made total sense that they would introduce and start making Batwoman.
Right. So, like, this world, we have Star City, we have Central City, we have wherever Supergirl lives, and legends are kind of everywhere, but, like...
Metropolis.
Right. Like, another big, well-known city in the DC universe is obviously Gotham.
Yeah.
And one of the crossover episode in the previous season of The Flash, I don't think you knew that they were doing this, because I remember you freaking the fuck out. Like,
I don't...
Oh my God, that's Wayne Enterprises!
Yes, I think the thing was, like, I knew Batwoman was going to happen,
right,
like, the show was going to happen, that they were going to introduce her on the crossover event, which was amazing.
Yeah, so they bring Gotham in, as they reasonably should, but they don't do it with Batman. They do it in just the only way that would make me at all excited about Gotham. Yes. They make it a woman.
And not just, like, gender bending the character for...
Right. They find a comic book character,
Batwoman, who is cousins of Bruce Wayne.
Like, canonically.
Yeah.
Like, written in, they didn't just, pander to the social justice warriors.
Right. And, like, in the context of the show, again, I haven't read any Batwoman comic books. Like, I know she exists, and I've seen her pop in and out. But Bruce Wayne has been gone for 3 years. So has Batman. And nobody's
put that together.
And so
Kate Kane.
Kate Kane, thank you.
Yeah. I would die for her.
Takes on the responsibility of being what Gotham City needs. And that's Batwoman. And they're only in episode 5 or 6.
Something like that.
Because it just started at the beginning of October.
It's so good.
And we get to see her, deciding, coming back to Gotham City, being like struggling with where her cousin is, and the fact that she finds out in the episode that he was Batman. Yeah. I don't think she knew that before.
Played by Ruby Rose.
Rose, yeah.
So you have a visual.
Because the character of Batwoman also is bisexual or a lesbian. I'm not sure which.
Straight up
lesbo. Yeah. I'm not sure in the comic books which it is. But,
and I'm sure we'll see in the show.
But another really, prevalent thing in the Arrowverse is the fact that those details aren't actually...
They don't matter. They don't, put a whole shit ton of mustard on. Oh, we have a gay character.
Right. They're just,
Captain
another person. Exactly.
No big deal. It's so refreshing. And they're so multicultural. It's a very diverse cast. There are other strong female characters, but Batwoman is about to kick them all out of the water. I would do anything for her. She's so good.
She is good. And
only way to make me care about Batman is to make it a girl, because all of a sudden I'm invested in her.
And they do, when she's in the Batcave under Wayne Enterprises, she's looking at the suit, and I can't exactly remember what is said to her.
I'll tell them.
Yeah, go for it.
Them, our listeners. So she's looking at the suit, and she talks to her.
His name is Luke. The son
Fox.
Of Lucius Fox.
Yeah.
Who made all of Batman's gear and everything.
And she's like, I need you to fix the suit for me. And he's like, that suit is literal perfection. And she goes, it will be when it fits a woman. And I'm still not over it, and it's been weeks.
Yeah.
I'll never recover.
Because it's also addressing another issue that's been prevalent in comic book shit, media...
Misogyny.
I mean, misogyny, but also that, 90% of, Marvel movies and the have been centered around male superheroes.
They've been so dude-centric, and it's not that these female characters don't exist.
Right.
It's that they are actively choosing to make man movies, because man movies are seen as universal and women are seen as niche. But here we have someone taking up the mantle of the Bat, which is so famous and so iconic. And it's a girl, and not just a girl, Ruby Rose, who is not a traditionally feminine looking woman.
Right.
It's so perfect. I'll never get over it. I hope the show doesn't suck. I hope it continues to be as interesting as it is.
I don't think it'll suck. The only slight problem I have with the show, and it's not the show itself, like the writing and everything is pretty consistent with the other shows in the Arrowverse.
Totally it works.
The visual tone is what they do with all Gotham City type shit.
There's a filter.
There's a Gotham City filter.
Yeah, because even Star City gets like sunny days.
I mean, the fact that at least when he's patrolling a warehouse or something, there is at least green accent lights that come through. But the visual tone of The Flash and Legends and Arrow, they're all shot the same. And Supergirl even.
Yeah.
Like, that's when the crossovers happen. They don't feel jarring. Whereas when we saw Batwoman in the crossover event, she felt the same. But now that the show is happening,
they're doing something different.
It's like a dreamy, like washed out visual look, and everything's darker obviously because it only rains and is cloudy in Gotham City.
Which, like, yeah, it fits Gotham, but is it going to fit? You know, because the other shows have clicked together like puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
And she fit very well in the crossover before she had her own show, which I'm so curious about how the timing of that is, because I mean she was fully realized as Batwoman when we met her.
But in the
Flash. But then we go back to the beginning.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where it fits chronologically.
And like what I sort of thought, I mean, our suspicion is that the reason they start this now is because they're about to close out Arrow, and they're similarly dark and dreary characters. I hoped that she was gonna like come into her own and finally decide to be Batwoman during Crisis. Yeah. But they already did that, which like good. It's like, you know, she can
like
be
she's still learning, but she's painted the suit, the red symbol on it, and she has the wig because But that's the whole thing. Is like she wants people to know that she's Batwoman.
I know, and I get that. But like I get really annoyed when female superheroes don't put their hair up because it's annoying.
It's up. It's just a wig.
It's not. It's like long flowing hair.
Back this way.
It's not in a ponytail.
I know it's not in a ponytail, but it's like.
And part of it's like over her shoulder. I don't know. Like I get it. Visually, it's cool, but practically, I get annoyed.
But at least when she takes off the mask, like, Kate Kane has a crew cut.
Which is honestly why I have more of a problem with it. Because why would she want Batwoman to have long, flowing hair if
to
Kate
divert
Kane
suspicion.
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 Why did not you warn me?
Here we are. How long have we been doing this?
Don't worry about it. It's been 47 minutes.
That's fine.
But, yeah. To divert suspicion.
Nailed it.
Because, you know, the thing about Bruce Wayne and Batman...
all white men look basically the same, so...
I mean, it's just, with Bruce Wayne being as public of a figure in Gotham City as he is, I would imagine there would be, like, the craziest of circumstances happen, where there's, like, a photo... like poster of Bruce Wayne on like some building or something, and then somebody slaps another poster over top of it, and it leaves like just the bottom part open, and
like,
somebody's
oh my God.
Hey, wait a minute, I've seen that before. Yeah. Oh my God, he's Batman.
Yeah, but with women, people recognize their hair rather than their features.
So at least like to the people that see Batwoman, even if she's on a rooftop way up in the sky,
they think it's her hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a woman.
I know, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Like
I get to make it a point that she's somebody different.
She is a woman. Because, I mean, and the other really cool thing is that her suit is not sexualized. It's not, you know, there's not the boobs window. It's not, like, super tight that she can't breathe or move. Like, you know, it doesn't showcase her feminine body, so.
Right.
I mean, like, it's skin tight, which it sort of has to be
for movement, and stealth.
Yeah.
Yeah, the boobs window wouldn't really be practical when all of her villains have guns.
That's true, too.
Like, that's the whole thing of the Bat universe, is that he doesn't use guns.
Right.
So everyone, like even the...
Yeah, but when has that ever mattered for female characters?
What?
Whether or not they're being shot at with guns or arrows.
I agree,
have to see their
but
titty window.
In the Arrowverse, it makes sense that they keep the traditional, like, closed off. No, I don't agree with the way Black Canary was introduced.
That's so shitty.
But
like, her boobs are up to her chin.
Yeah,
that's not practical.
I don't know why.
Right.
other than like the visual.
I just reblogged a really funny thing on Tumblr that I'll show you later. It's Superman drawn in like as though his costume were drawn for a woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that before.
It's got all kinds of windows.
Yeah.
Like, so you can tell it's a strong female character.
Right.
She's comfortable with her body. Fuck off.
I mean, it can be good in that respect in a way, but it's very delicate on how to do that.
And sort of my deciding factor is, was her outfit designed by a woman?
Right.
And
that's
very frequently
that's mostly what it
no.
comes down to.
Yeah.
Because they're celebrating femininity and,
right. And then there's
strong female characters, and that she can be beautiful and be badass.
Yeah, and proud of her body and wanting to show it off, which, like, great, good for her, but also good for Kate Kane for, being dressed for the job she's doing. Right.
But, like, just from a logistics, I don't know, technical standpoint, I guess, the bat suit itself, like the bat symbol that's on the suit, isn't just branding. Like,
right. Yeah,
it's a target. Like, people generally shoot at that bat symbol thinking, like, that's the chest, and, like, it makes it a visual target. But it's also the most protective part of the suit.
Yeah, see, Batman is more utilitarian than most of the other characters, arguably because he doesn't have superpowers.
Mm-hmm. So he has to be.
Yeah.
And all of the training, like, this was what was cool about the Arrow show, is, like, they bring in the League of Assassins and everything, and those people train Bruce Wayne to fight. And a lot of shit like that happens in Arrow is like, well, Bruce Wayne has been doing that for a while, which is super interesting, and I really hope this happens in Crisis, and I don't know how it could not, but bringing in Batman, because in Supergirl, they, like, the first episode, which I did watch way back in the day.
I watched it recently.
Yeah, we talked about how they keep referring to her as Superman's cousin and shit like that.
Constantly. They refer to, like, so your cousin, without, like, saying Superman.
But, like, they put real mustard on it, being like, Superman exists, but he's not here.
Right.
So, like, it's your turn, Supergirl. And so, like, Batman, they've only just started referencing him. At least I'll see if Arrow does it, like Bruce Wayne or anything like that.
Right.
Like, they've only ever done it, I think, in the Flash universe. And that was in an alternate Earth on Barry Allen's phone.
Yeah, he had Diana, Bruce,
he had
and
all
Hal.
of his speed dials were people that we know as the Justice League, which is super cool.
And they also, what I thought was really funny about the crossover on the Flash where they introduced Batwoman is, like, the kids on Team Flash are all talking about Batman like he's a myth.
Yeah.
They don't even think he's real.
I think Barry does, or at least he hoped.
Yeah, he's like, no, he's totally real.
Because, like, that's the whole consistency of his character. It's like he does, and that was what was a little charming about the Shazam movie. The kid that Billy Batson like ends up living with because he's a foster kid. The one kid, Freddy, believes in the heroes and, like, has props and shit that he's got signed and whatnot. Like, he's a huge fan of, like, Superman and whatnot. And, like, Barry Allen is that guy.
He's totally that kid.
So when, like, he's like, it's like Bigfoot to him. Yeah. Like Batman, and we haven't seen Batman.
It might even have been Arrow who's like, he's not.
Yeah. And
because that's Oliver Queen.
That's Oliver Queen, who's doing the exact same shit that Batman does.
Yeah, and that's, like, it's so interesting because we get that character, so we still get that perspective.
Right.
Which, like, if they're ever gonna introduce Batman, it has to be after we've ended Arrow.
I don't think they have to. They can introduce him in Crisis, but also, like, a more experienced and better trained and, like, Oliver plus, so that when he's introduced and Oliver is, like, kind of pissed off, like, I was that guy, or, like, why didn't I think of that sort of thing? And it would almost sort of be fitting if they, like, I mean, it would be super fitting if Oliver Queen made the ultimate sacrifice in Crisis to save the multiverse.
Like, unless something happens in the next 3 seasons, that sort of seems to be the direct path we're on.
Right, based on everything we've seen so far.
That he's going to sacrifice himself so that Barry can live,
yeah.
you know, whatever, something like that.
But it would kind of be cool if he did, like, I'm conflicted because it would be very cool if he did it on his own, but if he had Batman's help to do it.
Yeah.
Because then you're not bringing Batman in, or, like, you have to address the fact that Batman's fucked off to another place. Like,
yeah, I mean, which they have continued to address.
Yeah.
And it's not like in Supergirl where they mention Superman and then, you know, just brush it off.
Yeah.
They keep referencing the fact that no one knows where Batman is or why
Bruce
he's been
Wayne
gone.
is.
Yeah.
And it's been
They're
like
not
3 years.
Go.
Like, they keep putting it on the 3-year mark.
Yeah, and making sure that's on our radar.
And as we know the character of Batman, he is well researched and, like, always has contingency plans that he, in a sense, is probably working on something related to Crisis. Because in Supergirl they also introduced Martian Manhunter, who is part of the Justice League. And the JLA Watchtower. Like, we see the Hall of Justice.
Yeah, we don't call it that, but
no,
we see it.
we see it, and it's real prevalent on screen.
And the really cool thing that they did with Gotham, which we talked about, which they should have done, it was a good thing. I mean, they sort of Spider-Man Homecoming did, where they brought us into a story that we already knew without bat-splaining the beginning to us. They brought us into a world that we were already comfortable with.
Yeah.
But with a new story.
Right.
And they didn't, you know, take the time to be like, this is Gotham. Gotham's a scary hellscape where nothing good has ever happened.
Right, we just
like,
know it already.
We just jumped in, because people, you know, if you've gotten this far, like...
I think somebody did a supercut of all the times Bruce Wayne's parents have been murdered on screen, and it's like an extraordinary amount.
Right, it's, losing Bruce Wayne's parents, losing Uncle Ben, like, it's all stories that are part of pop culture.
Yeah.
Like, everybody, even people that are not comic book fans, they know that Batman's parents were shot in an alley.
Right. And that went on to create Batman.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're telling us instead how Kate Kane is creating Batwoman, which is just even cooler. It brings Gotham into this world, which it should be. It absolutely should be a part of it. Gotham is another major port.
It really is,
in this universe, but they're not.
I mean, Superman and Batman, the two that pretty much spawned DC Comics. I mean, DC Comics is Detective Comics, which Batman was introduced in. So
like one of the OG.
Which I get why they've always been like the go-to, but
you
can only do that so many times.
And like what the Berlantiverse has been really good at, like they're not telling us any stories that we already know. Like even with the Flash, who I think is one of the only ones that I would call like, you know, a first string player. Like they're not.
He's straight in the Justice League.
Yeah. He's not a side character. He's not a deep cut. They didn't have to pull him out of anywhere. Like, he's the only like first string player, but they're not telling us any stories that are familiar.
Right. Which is why I'm curious, because it was announced a few days ago that they're doing a Superman and Lois TV show using the Superman that they introduced in Supergirl. Something like that. That sounds right.
I don't know how you pronounce it. I know how to spell it. He was on Teen Wolf.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting.
Like it's cool that we get all of the announcements about Crisis and like all of the casting and stuff, but it would be really cool if we didn't. If they like didn't tell us that they cast Batman and he just showed up.
That would be super cool.
Really cool. And I feel like if they were gonna sit on any of them, it should be that one because they've you know, put so much work into building that mystery. Yeah. That it would be really lame if we're like, hey, Batman's gonna show up. We're like, oh, okay.
And they didn't say Batman was showing up, but they did tell us that Kevin Conroy was coming, who is the voice of Batman in the animated shit. Is
that what they call it?
Yeah.
Okay. Batman, the animated shit.
But with his physical appearance and also his just age.
Right.
He's getting up there.
He's not going to be a young Bruce Wayne.
Right, and like in Batman Beyond, an old Bruce Wayne stops being Batman and trains a younger person to be Batman. Cool. But that takes place in like the future Gotham City, where like shit's crazy. But
postmodern Gotham.
Yeah. Where like Gotham City is very like Art Deco and whatnot. In Batman Beyond, it's like high tech Art Deco. Like the show really worked though. Like it was an animated show and it was awesome.
Do you have a favorite character in the Berlantiverse at this point? I asked and now I can't decide.
I mean, Flash was like my first.
Yeah.
But I really love Arrow.
I fucking love Batwoman, but I also I love Cisco.
Yeah.
I love Felicity.
Felicity's great.
She's so great. Like, talk about a complex female character. Like, bravo. And she could have just been a dumb blonde. I mean, she couldn't. She's their tech expert, but Joe West.
Joe West.
I love
True. I do like Lance a lot. Unintentional, but
Captain
it
Lance.
stands.
Detective Lance.
Detective Lance. He's grown on me.
Yeah. He started off as kind of like an archetype.
Right, because I was like, he's doing the whole Jim Gordon thing.
Yeah. There's so many good ones.
I mean, I do like Ray Palmer.
Ray Palmer, yeah.
And he's awesome on Legends of Tomorrow. So there's an episode, the one where they make the Prison Break reference. Michael Scofield is like, was Phoebe there? Yes.
Yes. Every time.
Where they're like, they have to get the information from like a criminal or something.
Sure.
And
because good guys just tell you.
And like, the main character, Rip Hunter, who's like the time agent or whatever, and Snart are like in the place about to like interrogate this guy, and he's a big dude, so there's gonna be a fight. He's like, if your friends are in that prison, they're the most like ruthless and violent and
killers with a Z.
Yeah. And it cuts to Ray Palmer, and he's pretending to be Captain Kirk in like the command chair on the spaceship. It does that a lot, and there's an episode where they go back to the Old West, and there's this violent gang that's like taking over the town, and Ray is like standing his ground, being like, I'm not going to let these people get hurt, and he's like, and he introduces himself as John Wayne, and like is just like the coolest motherfucker that's ever put on a pair of Stetsons. Like,
a pair of Stetsons?
A pair of Stetsons.
He wears two.
I was going to
cowboy boots
or Spurs, and then Stetsons.
Gotcha.
So he puts on two Stetsons.
He has two heads.
Has 4 guns.
He's an octopus.
But
he's great in Arrow too.
He's really great in Arrow.
Injecting levity where we desperately
and he does that all the time on Legends.
Ralph Dibny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, if we had to break them down between favorite characters on each respective show, Ralph Dibny is probably my favorite from Flash.
Interesting. More than Barry?
I don't know. Ralph brings a lot.
Least favorite characters.
From Flash or in general?
In general. Coming in second place, we have Iris West.
Second place?
Coming in first place, we have Laurel Lance.
Yeah, Laurel's
awful. Like right up until 30 seconds before, spoiler alert, she dies.
Which is why I think Iris is first, because she's just consistently awful.
Yeah.
I don't think... Did she get like the Speed Force at some point?
I think at some point.
I feel like she did.
Second.
Yeah. Yeah, those are my two.
Iris is useless. Laurel's annoying.
Yeah, but at least Laurel fights crime.
Yeah, but Laurel is like overtly problematic in like she makes their situations worse like more than once. And every time.
When does Iris not do that?
I don't think she makes it worse. I think she just makes it
the fact that
dumb,
she is there is worse.
She just talks and you're like, oh my god, can we get back to the fun part? Whereas Laurel's like, you can't do that. You have to do this. And you're like, no, why? And Oliver's like, okay. And then he does it. And they're like, Oliver, why did you do that? Well, Laurel told me. Stupid fucker. I hate Laurel.
Really?
I don't like hating female characters, but I hate her.
What about Sarah?
Sarah I never really grasped.
Okay.
I don't know, she wasn't as defined of a character.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she died and came back to life twice, which is a lot.
How did it happen the first time?
The first time it was on the Amazo.
Oh.
Yeah, and she died, but we didn't find a body.
Right.
And if you can't find a body, they're not dead. Like, helpful hint.
Fair enough.
And sometimes even if you can find a body, they're not dead. See Sarah the second time.
Right.
I also loved Thea.
Thea's great. She's growing as like a person.
Yeah, she had an arc.
Yeah.
I love a good arc.
Yeah.
Characters that grow and change. I'm all about that.
Right.
I'm kind of annoyed by Killer Frost on
now?
Flash. Yeah, because I like Caitlin a lot.
I like Caitlin too, but there's got to be a reason.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a lot with Caitlin, and they keep bringing up this like Killer Frost thing, so it makes sense for us to have Frost for a while. I mean, like, I like Caitlin, but Caitlin is another character who sometimes falls victim to man writing, where she's a feelings receptacle for the boys around her. She does have like her own things,
yeah.
But there are certain moments where I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Which Laurel was. I mean, that was a huge problem with Laurel, is she wasn't...
Well, that should have been her only function.
Right, and then they kept trying to do more.
They kept making her, like, a part of the team.
Yeah, Iris is just Barry's feelings receptacle.
Yeah.
And not even, like, useful like Joe, who at least tells him what to do about it.
Well, Joe is his father figure.
Yeah, he's so good.
Iris was the love of his life.
Right.
His entire life,
yeah.
So, like, I buy that a little more. She's just...
Yeah.
She never has anything good to contribute.
Yeah, I mean, Laurel just sort of, like, becomes obsolete, but they don't let her go.
Yeah, that's really the problem.
For, like, several seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then they finally kill her. Like, it's good. I said that already.
Well, then who's your favorite villain?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I kind of like the first Wells.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Even though it's not him.
Right.
Like, that's how you have to, like, separate in your mind.
Exactly. Like, because Tom Cavanaugh's incredible.
He is amazing.
Great job
so,
with that.
like, as much as we rag on the Flash for, like, reusing plots.
Like the same thing over and over again. I love it every time.
Every single time.
They bring us
a new
Harrison Wells, and we get to see Tom Cavanaugh do something ridiculous, and it's great. And even, like, Cisco this season was like, all right, so what happens then?
We don't like each other, and then I remind you of somebody, and then...
And then you and I form a special bond. Like,
right.
Oh, great, another mean one.
Right.
So they acknowledge it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but the first one, like, that was sort of, like, the Flash, like, the thing distilled into, like, its purest form. Like, Barry's, sort of figuring out his powers, figuring out who he is as a person, while also fighting his most intense battle, which was not only figuring out for certain, like with documentable proof that his father didn't kill his mother, but then defeating, the thing that did kill his mother.
And also putting so much trust into Wells
before realizing
that he is actually not only the man that killed his mom, but did it to stop him from becoming the Flash, or something, like to further his own Yeah, like it's just sort of like the Flash goes on to get fairly convoluted with time travel and everything, and I mean I'm with them up to a certain point where I got lost and jumped off, but then jumped back on again. But like season 1 is very straightforward. It's the thing in its truest form. Yeah. Which I will always appreciate. And it sets the precedent for the rest of the series. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. He's probably my favorite. Okay. Like, as intricate as Slade Wilson's plan was. I was thinking about Slade. Yeah. I was thinking about Damien Darhk. Like, he's a great actor, too. Like, I really enjoyed Slade. Yeah. I hated Damien Darhk. Mostly because of his shit. Like, when you bring in somebody who's so powerful that, like, like you have to resort to his kind of powers in order to defeat him. And the great thing about Arrow was that, like, so far they hadn't really brought in metas. Yeah. Like, anybody that had extra
superhuman ability.
Metas kind of stayed on the Flash in Central City.
People that were extremely skilled at fighting, which worked because Oliver was extremely skilled at fighting.
Yeah, leveled the playing field.
And even like the Mirakuru, like that, it was a little bit more intense,
but it was like
we still had
science-based.
complete belief that Oliver could beat the shit out of them.
Right.
And he did.
Yes, every time. Merlin, I didn't really care about him.
No.
Like, John Barrowman is great, but...
Yeah. The character's hard to get a grip on because his motives are always changing.
Yeah.
Which, might be true to life, but doesn't feel very comic booky, where the bad guys are always bad and the good guys are always good.
Right.
Something else I wanted to say before we close out, and this isn't really a good closing topic, but I think part of the reason this works so well is because the episodic nature of television lends itself more to the comic book form, because comic books are episodic definitionally. Which,
as you say that, I know you've said it before when we just are talking, that might be why the Marvel movies work so well. Because, like, they were telling individual stories, but because they were building up to something, they became episodes.
Did it in pieces.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So, note to the DC universe, DC cinematic universe, I guess. You can't do it in one movie.
Or if you're going to...
pick a really short storyline.
Yeah.
And do the shit out of it, and then close it off and do something else.
Right.
The connected universe, I think, only works if you have people that are deeply passionate about a wide array of the source material.
And, like, not for nothing, but supposedly Zack Snyder was that guy, and then shit went wrong.
Rest in peace. He's not dead.
No.
I don't think.
He's not. I think he did have something happen in his family. But
Joss Whedon took over to questionable results.
Yeah. But he had a whole, like, contained trilogy with, like, the Justice League movie. I don't know.
Like,
what they're doing on TV is far superior.
It's enjoyable. I get really emotionally caught up, and sometimes I cry, but it's fun. It's not, most of it's not too heavy, so when it is, it's believable.
Yeah.
Like, the actors are all really good. The shows are all tonally very similar, so they can sort of weave in and out of each other effortlessly, and they don't point at it and go like, look, we're doing that. Like, when they were going to bring in Flash, we started seeing, like, on, like, background TVs, just talking about, like, the lead-in to the Star Labs, the particle accelerator.
Yeah.
We're like, wait, oh my god, they're really doing that.
Yeah. Like, construction is almost finished on the particle accelerator.
Really intricate, intentional world building.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for Crisis, I guess.
Yes. December 19th.
2019.
Happening over 6 shows. Or 5.
Something like that.
Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Legends, Batwoman? Yeah. 5.
5. But 8 episodes?
Maybe.
Something like that.
One of them might be 2-parter.
Anyway.
Alright. That was... I don't know how we end these.
It's been real.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for talking.
To the
ruminations of Matthew Danko and Hillary Crumb on the sexiest of evenings. I'm ready for chicken and waffles. Love you.
Right. I'm your host, Matthew, TheDoctorDanko.
That's what we do. I'm Hillary Crumb. I'm here too. Okay,
bye.
Once the show ends, please don't shed those tears. We'll come back again, so have no fear. Oh, we told you that it just might end up this way. What's the show called again? You cannot be saying, why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me now? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't